Hi there, and welcome to the NGINX Coffee Klatch. In German, by the way, Coffee Klatch means coffee and gossip. And as the name implies, this is an informal chat. During this, you'll have a chance to hear about some things open sourcey, meet some of the people behind open source, both inside and outside of NGINX and F5, and maybe even learn something new. I'm Dave McAllister. I'm the open source technologist for NGINX, which is part of F5. And today with me is Oscar Spencer. Oscar, give me a quick background on yourself. What do you do here at F5?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get to work on a bunch of fun technology. So I'm mostly working with WebAssembly, working towards making all of F5 more programmable, which is really exciting and involves a bunch of open source as a part of that, of course.
Yeah, and I got to meet you basically through the connection with WebAssembly, so I'm looking forward to getting your insights on that. But I this one's kind of interesting, and I think our community really wants to learn a little bit more about this. Nginx itself started as an open source project way back in 2002 and was released in 2004. And since then, we're now looking at open source in Nginx as a collective. So, what do you think about how things are going for open source at Nginx and F5 in general?
Yeah, I mean, looking at open source in general, we're in a little bit of a weird time, right? Like, we're starting to see so many organizations who have control of these massive open source projects come in and say, "Oh, well, we're not making enough money off of this," and that's hasn't been great for what it's meant for licensing and what it's meant for people. This is really old news at this point, but I remember when Meta, Facebook at the time, said, you know what, we're gonna just tweak the license for React.js just a little bit, and no one needs to worry about it. And then, of course, folks looked at it and said, if you compete at all with Facebook, then there's a chance that we might come sue you. And everyone, was up in arms about this. It was a huge deal. And somehow, some way, that was enough for them to be like, oh, no, sorry, we're just gonna be MIT, which was pretty sweet. But that hasn't been what we've seen happen in the community, since then. So it's sad to sort of see that happen. But of course, there's so many new up and coming projects that are doing an amazing job of staying true to their open source identity. And especially when you look at NGINX, for example, yes, NGINX is owned by this larger corporation, but they've shown that they have commitment to continuing NGINX as a beautiful open source project, right? And I think probably majority of people, aren't even aware of like the paid NGINX offerings, right? Most people still use NGINX as open source and continue to love it, and it's continued to be supported. So there's definitely two sides to that coin, and we have seen companies be able to do right by open source, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. And, uh, you know, uh, the fact that people feel that they can change licensing and not have an impact on community always kind of disturbs me
Oh yes.
because no matter what, you're going to basically reset your community. We've had discussions before, but we use at Nginx. Basically, we do use Apache, MIT, and BSD are the three licenses, and we're pretty much committed to staying with an OSI approved license.
Mhm.
Um, there's reasons that people went that way in the first place, so we might as well stay there because, by God, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No,
So
absolutely not. I love to see, continued use of these permissive licenses. It lets me know, like, as a serial open source developer myself, it lets me know, like, hey, yeah, I'm excited to work on these projects, contribute back to these projects. I don't have to worry about, oh, if I start using this, something's going to change down the line, or, oh, I'm going to have to, worrying about licensing is the worst, right? For a lot of developers, they just care about getting their job done. For people who might not even contribute to open source, they just want to consume it. They're worried about, building out this new feature, getting this product out the door, or whatever it is. They don't want to spend time worried about licensing. And we've seen so much of that discourse just fracture the open source community, which, is terrible. The licensing, though, is exceptionally important. And I guess one positive thing in all of this is now so many more people are aware of what open source licenses are out there. Not everything's not just MIT and Apache. Like, there actually are more licenses that you have to learn and care about. So I guess that's a positive that I'll take out of this.
yeah, the last time I checked, OSI had 127 approved licenses. So there are lots of choices. Don't
Quite a
make
few.
your own. Please don't make your own.
Please, please, please don't make your own.
You know, along those lines, and since you've come in and are looking at external technologies as well, but Nginx and F5 together actually have a lot of open source work, but nobody knows about it for this. Everybody immediately defaults to thinking, "Oh, that web server thingy for this."
Oh yeah.
But if you had to mention a project that's inside of Nginx or F5 that people should be paying to, what's the hidden gem people should go check out?
Actually, this one's not so hidden. It might be hidden that people inside of F5 are involved, but actually, F5 is very involved in the open telemetry space, and I think folks don't know this. But yeah, we care a lot, obviously, about observability, about metrics, telemetry, all these things. They're important to most businesses, but we're actually doing the work to give back. And in fact, a number of popular OTel projects, I'd have to go look it up at this point because there's so many, but a number of popular OTel projects are maintained by F5 employees, which I think is awesome. And I think that's something that people should be, on the lookout for. If like, hey, how are we going to start thinking about telemetry? It's a great way to do it. And, I think we saw some stats recently that were pretty interesting that I think maybe like 20 to 30% of companies have actually started to adopt open telemetry, while something like 92% of companies see, oh, open telemetry will be the future. Like, this is where the industry is going. And I think that's freaking awesome. So it's definitely a great time for people to go get involved, give your opinions, open issues, talk about it, and please absolutely contribute in any other way. There's so much beautiful work that can be done outside of just going in and writing some code.
Yeah. And in fact, just to follow up with that, near and dear to my heart, you just named my favorite project, which is the Nginx Open Telemetry module, which was built so that you could see the request trace going through Nginx, not just what Nginx is doing, but what the trace is doing at the same point in time. So yeah, I'm a deep believer that open telemetry data should be free and standardized, and you get to choose how you want to aggregate, analyze, and display it.
Oh
So
yeah,
for that,
absolutely.
yeah,
But I know we
yeah,
can't get you started on that one.
I know because I can go big time. I can go big time into this one for this. So that's sort of the Nginx side, but it's a big world out there, and you've got fingers in all sorts of things. What's your favorite non-Nginx or non-F5 open source project?
Oh man. Whew, there's that's hard to even like think about for how many projects are out there. I mean, some that I'll just rattle off. One of my favorites is this project called JCO. Obviously, I'm a WebAssembly guy, but it's a project in the WebAssembly community. It's hey, we have WASM modules that are WASM components that work with the WebAssembly component model. So, if for folks who aren't familiar, just think about, hey, I can use libraries from any ecosystem and plug them all together. So if you want crypto libraries from Go, you want a really sick parser from Rust and use those together, that's something that you can do with the WASM component model. JCO allows you to do that with JavaScript as well. So it's a whole suite of tools that's just freaking awesome. So I love seeing that. Like, that's awesome. Even comes down to, there's projects out there that are kind of silly. I love, like, there's projects out there that just add Oxford commas to like yeah, because you think, yeah, how many times have you dealt with English text and you needed to join a number of things, you had to write that exact logic. There's projects like that are out there. So I love anything that inspires someone to say, I want to write this and I want to put this out into the world. I'm absolutely excited by it because I'm just excited when I see people do that. And even like my own projects, I like those too. Those are pretty awesome, right? So anything that folks are passionate about and they just want to continue working on, whether it's for actually business needs or just noodling on it in their spare time, like, I'm a huge fan.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna step back into that sort of serious side real quickly here because we've
Sure.
just talked a little bit about licensing and so forth. I've long held that there are basically two open source rules that companies should adhere to. One is give credit where credit is due. If
Hmm.
you're using somebody else's work, recognize them for doing so. And the other one is to return equivalent value.
Hmm.
Not saying open source everything in the world. I'm not saying any of those things. But how would you look at companies giving back to the community? We're hearing a lot of noise about that these days.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, obviously, if I could have my way, I'd say every single organization that consumes open source should devote at least 10% of all of their developers' time to going back into open source. Like that's like to me such an obvious one to do. Like I don't think folks realize how much of their revenue is associated with free and open source software that they've just pulled off the shelf, decided to consume and move on with their day. So I think that's the first one. But I mean, it sort of gets back into licensing, where yes, like we love to go to a project and see, okay, it's got that MIT license, I can do whatever I want, right? Like we love to see that sort of thing. But I do think there are some better licenses out there that offer more of an opportunity to make sure that folks are actually contributing back. And I'm not saying, oh, everyone should go
Yeah,
straight to GPL. I'm not saying that. But an example of this would be like the Mozilla public license. What's neat about that license is it says, okay, you can use this in like your projects and whatnot. The only thing that we ask is if you take any file from our source and you modify it, you publish that back. In other words, you either contribute it back or you actually publish it because you modified this particular file. Now, a lot of folks aren't going and just modifying projects, but occasionally you find yourself in a position of, hey, I need to fork this thing. And how many folks in your organization have you found that you forked an open source product, made some changes to it, and it just sits in the repository and like you're maintaining your own fork? It'd be amazing if you actually gave back like those changes. Probably a reason why you had to make those changes and contributing those back. And so I think licenses like the NPL allow you that opportunity to make sure folks are being a little bit more collaborative. So
yeah,
I think there's a couple of different ways you can think about it, ways you could go about it. But first and foremost, like if you're a manager of engineers and you have any opportunity to even 5% of your engineers' time going and working on open source, please, please, please do it. It's so critically important to our community and our entire industry to make sure that folks are able to go back and contribute to open source.
yeah. Those middle of the road MPL, which you mentioned, EPL, which has the wonderful legal confusing term, which says if you make a material change, you have to contribute it back.
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether that's explained anywhere or not.
Mhm.
APL, which basically says you can't imply patents to this. They all work really, really well, very strongly. I think so. So you're also deep into this space. You contribute. You work on personal projects. You work for a company that lets you work on some cool open source stuff as well. So the 30,000 foot question, yeah, while there may be 18 million or 183 million projects on GitHub, how does someone get started?
Yeah, it's definitely daunting. Which, in fact, this even goes back to I remember my first ever job as a software engineer, and I remember going into work and then being absolutely terrified of just showing my code to my coworkers. So my very first engineering job. And these days it's like, oh yeah, I just wrote this. It's free to the world. Just go do it. And it's funny how that changes, but really all that happens is you just get more comfortable with it, right? And actually, here's a great way to get involved. There's so many times where you're going to find an open source project that you're using and you're going to say to yourself, man, I wish this did this, or I wish this one thing worked a little bit differently. And it turns out, if the projects are open source, you can go find the source, you can open an issue, or even better, open a pull request with some changes that make the thing work the way that you want it to, and talk about it, right? It's not just a matter of just writing some code. You have a discussion with the maintainers of, oh hey, here's this functionality, I thought this would be a great idea. Is anyone working on this? Has anyone thought about this? If so, like, I'd love to take this on and make that change. And you'd be surprised, a lot of maintainers are actually really, really excited and honored that you are taking time out of your day to come participate in their project. So folks get really excited by that. I know, especially for me, anytime someone comes in and says, hey, I want to work on this thing, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Or even, if folks say, oh, I really want to work in this thing, but I don't know if it's quite my skill set, I don't know, I think I might get stuck. I will go to them and say, hey, do you want to pair program on this? Like, we can hop on a Zoom call for 4 hours to get it done. I don't care. I'm just excited that you're excited and that you're willing to contribute. So maintainers, they're nicer folks than you might think. I think a lot of all we end up seeing is online, oh, look at how this person just went and closed this guy's PR, and we see stuff like that. But it's, a lot of times, maintainers get agitated because so many people just take, ask for so much without ever giving back. So maintainers love it when you give back. So you shouldn't at all be scared of going to a project and saying, hey, I want to get involved, I want to contribute. Even if it's a small fix, even if it's just a small docs change, we absolutely love that. So just get in there and do it. That's the best thing that you can do, is just go get involved, especially projects that have, a Slack or, a Zulip or a Discord server. Like, just go get involved. Just say, hey, I'm interested in this. How can I help out? Or go look for that good first issue on GitHub, anything tagged with that. And for some projects, I started using a good second issue for ones that are a little bit harder, but like that you can actually start building your way up. So maintainers will absolutely help you. Don't fret about it at all. Just get in there.
Yeah, I want to add to that because I'm going to do a shout out for our maintainers. Our maintainers do a great job here. We have wonderful first issues, but I would love to see us have a certain amount of first issues that didn't require coding skills,
Oh yeah.
because that's the biggest miss on a lot of projects is where's the documentation, where's the outreach, where are those things? And they have first issues too. So, okay, all you maintainers out there, give me some first issues that I can go tackle as well for that.
Mhm. And also, I'll just throw in there too for you maintainers. On your docs, every single page should have a edit this on GitHub or wherever your project is hosted. Have that link. I've gotten so many folks come in and make edits to documentation just because the link was there. You don't even have to download anything. You can do it straight in the UI, make the changes and submit it. So absolutely do that. Make sure folks know that they are welcome to come in and make those changes.
That's actually a great call out. I really like that one. Okay, so we're kind of running up on time here. Any last thoughts you want to share with us?
I'm just excited. I think the open source has gotten the world to where it is today, and I think it's just going to continue to do that. There's times where you might have that big idea where you say, "Oh man, this could be some super cool business," but instead you say, actually, I'm just going to write a couple libraries and put them out there and see if anyone cares." And like that's super fun too, right? So don't be afraid of open source. Like, it's there. It's a journey, but you meet so many cool folks, and I've met so many amazing folks over my career just being in open source. So I highly recommend it. Everyone go do it. Go fall in love with it. It's an amazing time.
Yeah, well, thanks, Oscar. Thanks for being one of those really cool, interesting people in open source that I've met in my career. I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your insights with us. And thank all of you for joining us as well and meeting some of the people behind the power and ideas behind open source. If you've got your own thoughts, your own ideas, feel free to add them to the comments on this video and let us know what else you'd like us to talk about at some point in time. Until next time, may the open source be with you.